Oh, hello. My name is Mara, and welcome to Books Like Whoa. Today we are doing another Poirot video, which, you know, it's become a nice little ritual here on my channel. And today is the ABC Murders by Agatha Christie. Now, this is not a very exciting cover, though it is a really cool little set that I got at the used bookstore, so this is what I read, but it's not fun to look at, so I'm just going to put that down. So this is the 12th book in the Poirot series, and I think that this one is not one of her more successful books. I didn't hate this, I didn't love it. I'd say I liked it-ish, but I do know that it's actually one that is quite like a fan favorite. I think I'm in the minority of not loving it, and I'll get into why that is in a little bit. But if you've never watched one of these videos before, if you have not read this book, you can certainly keep watching. I take a little summary up through about when we start finding a body or two, and then I cut it off. So no real spoilers. Feel free to keep watching even if you haven't read the book yet. So we have Hastings back, yay! So he is back from the Argentine to deal with some business problems that are related to the Great Depression, but he's in London staying with Poirot, and they receive a very vague letter of menace from somebody signed ABC, who essentially insinuates that they are going to kill somebody in Andover on a specific day and that there's nothing that Poirot can do to stop them. So Poirot, he gets a lot of letters like this apparently, but this one, for whatever reason, he kind of knows is an actual threat. He tries to tell the police, but they're not that interested until, lo and behold, somebody actually is killed in Andover on that day, and their body is found with an ABC railway guide next to it. So there's not a ton of interest because she was sort of like just this poor nobody, and I believe, I can't remember exactly what her name is, but it starts with an A. She's in Andover. Her last name starts with an A, and Poirot gets a feeling that this is just the beginning of the problems, and he is certainly right there, because as the book progresses, there is a murder in Brexel, and that is, I think her last name is Bernard, something like that, and she's killed in Brexel. And then there's a collector of porcelain who I believe's name is Sir Carmichael. No, yes, Sir Carmichael Clark is killed in Churston. So as you can see, it's alphabetical, and one by one people keep getting killed, and Poirot gets letters ahead of time kind of warning him, but he's like running around trying to figure out who done it, and yeah, he does eventually. Spoilers, but I mean, come on, it's a Poirot, not really. So this is the first Agatha Christie that has basically a serial killer in it, and I think for that reason that might be part of why people like it, because it's something a little bit different for her. I, however, did not particularly find this to be a super successful book. I think the pacing of it's quite nice, and it is a very engaging story, but I think there's two things that are working against this particular book. The first thing is that I think that this is kind of a step back from the level of characterization that we know Agatha Christie is now capable of at this point in her writing career. It's 1935, and the year before she had released Death in the Clouds, or Death in the Air, and that is really the first kind of like fully mature Agatha Christie characterization novel, and this is just not up to those standards. It's much closer to something like, say, Peril at End House or The Big Four. The characters are interesting. It's not that they're not interesting, they're just not as rounded out or as sort of corkified as a lot of her characters will be going forward. And so for that reason, I don't know that this is super successful. The other reason I don't think that this is a particularly successful novel is that it is not one that is playing to her strengths. So as I've said in the past, I think Agatha Christie does her best work when she's really focusing in on details of people's kind of psychology and not anything forensic. And it's interesting I should say that because there is a lot of discussion of psychology in this book, more so than any other to date. Now, the first time Agatha Christie ever mentions psychology in a book, I believe, is in Murder on the Links, which is her second novel, so it's always been present. But by the mid-30s, there's like this real surge in interest in psychoanalysis, and much more kind of like forensic psychiatric terms start coming into the lexicon, And this is the first book where we see Agatha Christie using those kinds of terms like edible complex, psychopath, things that we would be familiar with today, hearing kind of like a psychiatrist evaluate a patient or kind of the psychopathy of why somebody has done what they have done. But this is the first time Agatha Christie sort of ventures into that territory, and I just don't think she does it very successfully. It's possible that at the time this was read as being very like modern, and there was enough sort of hand-wavium that maybe a 1935 reader felt like this was really well-informed psychology and like cutting-edge whatever. I think to a contemporary reader today, it just doesn't really hold up that well. Like, a lot of it is very clearly just sort of psychobabble, and her characterization of the serial killer and of mental illness, basically. Essentially what I think I'm trying to say is she verges away from psychology, which I think she does pretty well in terms of what's motivating people on a character level, into psychiatry and trying to describe mental illness and what kind of goes on in the brain of somebody who's just like not idiosyncratic, but actually like ill or abnormal in a significant way. And I think she just doesn't do that very successfully. It gets too forensic, and it just, to me, it just doesn't read. That being said, I think that the solution to the whole thing is quite elegant. And I think if you're a longtime reader of Agatha Christie, you probably have a hint that there's a little bit of misdirection happening just based on kind of how she likes to wrap books up. So I think in that respect, it's probably satisfying to a lot of people, the actual mystery component. And I think I found this to be adequate. So this isn't going to be one of my favorite ones, but it was fine. And I think I understand why people like it so much. But as I've been saying, I just think that the actual kind of characterization and kind of focus on trying to be criminal minds, I don't think Agatha Christie can do that well. In terms of ongoing themes and sort of development, moral development, I hit on one thing, which is that we really do see the language of like psychology and psychiatry really coming into the lexicon as a way to describe what might be seen as moral failings in previous generations. So I think that's quite interesting in terms of kind of the language people use to describe bad things happening. So I thought that was interesting. I also mentioned that Hastings is back from the Argentine because he essentially has been a victim of the Great Depression. It's 1935. We really are sort of in the thick of the Depression. We haven't gotten to World War II yet, but that really is sort of a pall over a number of books in this period. And, you know, Hastings is back, and he's, you know, being Hastings. I do think that he has grown a lot as a narrator at this point. We've seen him in, gosh, gotta be 6, 7, 8 books now. And yeah, I think it's interesting to see that he and Poirot have really changed quite a bit since the first book. And that's logical, right? Because in the book time, it's been about 15 years. So of course their friendship has sort of changed and evolved. But yeah, overall, I honestly don't have a lot to say about this aside from the fact that I think I'm an anomaly in the fact that it didn't really work for me very well, this particular book, but I do see it as a significant milestone in our overall sort of project of trying to figure out or trying to kind of track and note how the British perception of morality evolved throughout the course of the 20th century. And I think this shift into more kind of like scientific terms of discussing morality, that is a very significant step in this book. So I did find that to be quite interesting. So how would I rank the ABC murders? Well, like I said, I gotta be honest, I don't love this one. I'm gonna say that I like it better, definitely, than 3-Act Tragedy from last week. I definitely like it better than that. I'm not sure I like it. It's a 3-star book for me. It's on the lower end of a 3-star. I guess I would probably put it above Peril at End House because I did like the pacing in this one a little bit better, but it's towards the bottom of my list for me. And I know a lot of people really like this one, but you know, I gotta follow my heart. So yeah, I would put it kind of down towards the bottom-ish of the list. But anyway, if you are somebody who enjoyed this book more than I did, because I think there's a lot of people out there who this is one of their favorite Agatha Christie books, definitely let me know why and what your thoughts are. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, follow me on the social medias if you are so inclined. I have all that information listed in the description box below. And I think that that's gonna do it. I hope you're having a great day, and I will just talk to you later. Bye!